Half a Day Fanachu listeners, my name is Fay Camacho, and I am the co-chair of Independent Guåhan's Media and Solidarity Committee. And I just wanted to hop on here in the beginning of the episode. First off, I forgot to introduce myself. I really acted like, I was coming back as if I didn't take a year-long break. But anyway, I am again the co-chair of Media Solidarity with Maget, and I took a bit of a break, but I do produce episodes for Fanachu every now and then, and hopefully I'll be able to produce a lot more. So the episode you're about to see is a conversation with me and my friend Dr. Melissa Taitano, which you have already seen the flyer, I'm sure, or you read what the episode's about. But anyway, this is probably one of my favorite conversations that I've had for Fanachu. No disrespect to everyone else I talked about. I love you all. I love you all equally. But I did really love getting to just sit down and talk to Melissa about navigation, seafaring, community, connection, and just all that good stuff. So I say that this is my favorite conversation, but unfortunately, this is also my worst production, if I'm being honest. A lot of things went wrong. A lot of things happened in the first, I want to say the first 10-15 minutes of the episode. The audio is really bad. It's not really bad. It's okay. It's good. No, but really, it's a bit rough. So I just wanted to say sorry for that. Try to fix it as much as possible. I swear it does get better, kind of, a little bit. And it does get dark, but you'll hear about it from the past me that filmed it and explains it later. But anyway, I just wanted to preface that. Sorry about the audio issues. I hope it's okay for the first 15 minutes. If you could just power through that, I will just love you endlessly, tremendously. Thank you with all my heart, all the gratitude in my spirit. And I think I've talked way too much already, so I'm gonna end this intro here by saying thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to follow our Facebook, our YouTube, our Instagram, our Patreon, don't forget, and enjoy the conversation between me and Melissa. Okay, half a day for Natsu. It's another episode with me. It's been, I don't know, like a year. I know you guys miss me. Who doesn't? Like, every day, all the time. I'm just kidding. I wish.
She's not kidding.
Hey, I'm blushing. Anyway, the beautiful, funny person sitting next to me today is Dr. Melissa Taitano. And she's here, which I'm sure you guys read the title of the episode, it's on the flyer. She's here because she is a great friend of mine that is one of the first female tomorrow co-navigated. Small clap, everybody home, small clap for Melissa. And you know what? Full transparency. I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm just sitting with a friend and we're just gonna vibe out. I think the biggest reason why I thought it'd be cool to do an interview with you is, well, one part of it is because just that title alone, right? There's Tomorrow Female Co-Initiative Navigator, that's kind of huge, and that's not something that happens, obviously it's not something that happens all the time, so I thought it'd be interesting to kind of really dive into not just what that means, but how do you even get there, How do you I think in some areas it's easy to be an apprentice of this or apprentice of that because there's kind of there's a trail that someone led for you, but when you have to make your own trail, I think that's really interesting. And then the other reason was I just thought honestly, selfish reasons. I'm not gonna lie, guys. When I do these interviews, it's because I want to, and because I think my friends have something cool to say, and sometimes I just want to ask. So I think selfishly, I just wanted to know, like, um, maybe like if they're, what is it? Because you're like, I'm talking about, like, following a trail in some way, and I don't know what I want to do, but I know that at the new house, whenever I'm there, I just kind of like always enjoy my space there. And I guess on paper, when people would look at me, it's kind of like I'm kind of, it kind of looks like I'm in your path. So I wonder, like, if the things I did or the path that I feel like I'm taking, I kind of wonder, like, how different that is, if parallels, or just kind of like how different our two experiences are.
Right.
So I guess to start off, like, we could start from there. Like, do you want to introduce yourself? And like give like this huge like
Yeah, no, I
love
think
fest
you.
of her already?
No, I think you did a beautiful job. And I want to say, I actually want to say thank you for inviting me. And I also just think the world of you. And yeah, I think we're very much drawn to the ocean and to traditional seafaring. And you know, I don't know how your kind of, why you felt compelled to take the class, and then beyond taking the class, becoming an apprentice, a part of the apprentice program and the School of Warring. Um, so I think the calling is kind of the same that way. And for me, I think it was just that. It was just that. It was a calling, but I don't think that it's something that's necessarily like it didn't start with me. It didn't start. It started with something that's much larger than both of us. And so for decades, like we're not the ones that we're not the first ones. Um, to have a renewed kind of love for the ocean, a new kind of awakeness, with the land and with the sky. Those seeds were planted a long time ago. And you see it manifested, like if you think about just traditional navigation, for example, right? Back in the 90s, there was always a cooperation, there was a cooperative relationships when it came to traditional seafaring between, Guam-based people and the Central Carolines. So you start with Dr. Vince Diaz in the 80s, Dr. Lawrence Cunningham, who brought Palusoste from Puluwat, and they were the first ones to actually have a class at UOG. So, but since then we've got other people like, of course, Ronak Fazzi, who the Chamorro Navigator, who is now the head of Ulatau. But he also had relationships with Po Navigator Manny Sakau, and so there's been decades of this kind of seed being planted, and for me, I think it was just nature that called at the time, and things seemed to be in my life at the moment, they just coalesced into a kind of like a perfect point. So I don't know if did you feel the same way when you started coming and you decided I like this, I need this, I want to be here?
Yeah. Actually, I think it was funny. Like, a couple weeks ago when yeah, I think you were busy. You weren't there. But we brought Larry's class down to Paseo to kind
Right,
of salvage some parts from the kind of torn down canoe house.
right,
So we were just like cleaning up and stuff.
right.
And then I had to leave early. And then one of the students was like, "Hey, wow! I wish I got paid to like leave early like that. I wish I could like, I wish my boss would let me go like that too." I was like, "Boy, I'm here for free." I was like, "Dude," and then he's like, "Oh, why are you here then?" I'm like, "Why not?" Like,
Right,
no, and like, I remember when I was leaving that car, I was just like, "Yeah, you know what? I forgot. I'm not even being paid to be here anymore, but I'm still here and coming." And I think
right.
it's just like, I guess more recently. I mean, I could always talk about like before and like the beginning, but I think recently, um, there's just this calmness
Oh,
about being here.
right.
Like even when it's like something that's not calm, like our company's flying away or we're like
Right.
climbing something, and I'm like honestly like scared to death, but I'm like silent because I'm like no, we can do this. I can do this. I'm good. But
Right.
no matter what is like going on here, I always feel like I always get this like um, yeah this calmness to just be in this space. And I don't think it's like a physical space. I think it's just a community space in that sense because like we'll even be down um, getting materials in Tally or some random row that we got
Mhm.
permission to, and if that's all I do for the day, that's
Yeah.
I think it was a good day.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. It's a community space, and because it's a community space, it's a spirit space. And the calmness. I think I feel the same thing, but I also feel a kind of groundedness. And there's a there's a lot of security in that kind of groundedness that feels authentic and feels true, and it's almost very nurturing, just in terms of the kind of commitment and faith and in what it is that we're doing, trying to do, for our students and for our young kids and for the region. And I also think really, it's a liberating space, and for me at least, it's kind of a liberating space. Um, and I say that because it allows us kind of the expression of almost auto self-determination, in that we are legitimizing, and in the act of doing what we're doing, we're recognizing a gift and a legacy of our ancestors that lasted so much longer than the colonial period, and our and it was a completely different reality. So for me, traditional navigation is an expression of auto self-determination. It's a validating the kind of sacrifices our ancestors made. It's a validation of the brotherhood and sisterhood that we have from people from the south of Taiwan to the Philippines to Indonesia, then throughout Micronesia. And I tell you, when I just um, think about that and I ruminate about it, um, there's such a strength that I get from it. It's almost, um, it feels like light. A kind of power and strength that I get when I'm able to think about those things. Um, and also part of it is it explains away a lot of the anxieties of what it means to be Chamorro American, um, but not part of America, but belonging to America and living within that border of the differentiation. Who's inside the fence and outside the fence, who casts a real vote for president, who casts a straw vote for president. So, for me, it's such a liberating, nurturing, powerful space. Um, that makes me want to do good, that makes me want to do what I think as human beings we naturally do. And that's just to love one another, to care about one another, to not just be so focused on productivity and efficiency, and it's harder because the reality is harsher, but yeah, I think it goes back just to that, the really basic things. We should, we have the capacity to love one another, to treat each other well, to take care of one another. And I think that's the real source of, I think why I'm inspired and why I'm involved in traditional navigation.
Okay, buenas, we're back with new lighting. And by lighting, I mean my car is parked right there, and we're just spotlighting it. Because you know what? We were like, our idea was like, oh, let's go down like to the canoe house in PD, and it'll be like during like after work, and it'll be like a nice sunset. But we roll on island time, and we got here, and we set up, and we like chilled out, and then we upload, and then suddenly the sun started like disappearing, So it's a little darker, but it's okay. We're still here. Why not? We're chill. Anyway, before we had to reset, we're talking about kind of you're talking about like well, I was talking about calmness, and you're talking about grounding.
Mm.
I think an interesting thing you were saying during that I really liked was this. Um, you really highlighted the idea of connectedness with navigation, with just seafaring in general, and it wasn't like I think sometimes when people think of certain skills or kind of traditions or uh, things of that nature, it's
Right.
always kind of like very specific to one spot, or it's just like these people do that, or it's just like it's from this island. But then when you think of seafaring, you have to kind of think of it as not just your island, but you have to think of it as like this system of um, well, just this not just the navigation in the sense, because I think seafaring isn't just about knowing how to get from one place to the next place. There's
Right.
just this whole system of community and
Right.
helping and connecting
Right.
and sharing. And it's not there's of course there's things that are secret, like secret knowledge and all that other stuff, like
Right.
sacred knowledge, but there's just this huge aspect of that it it's not an independent thing you do.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's really intuitive how you move from the idea of community to island to region, essentially,
Mhm.
right? And so the canoe and traditional seafaring, so the canoe in Carolinian is called the wa. And so if you can imagine that conceptually the canoe was wa, and wa actually means a vessel that travels on the water, but it also has another meaning, a very specific meaning, and that is the pulmonary vein. It means vein. So the pulmonary vein that pumps oxygenated blood into the heart, right? So traditional navigation is not just about building canoes, as you said, as you alluded to, but it's the sustenance. It's what gives us life. And in fact, if you think about it, it's because we had the canoe that we gave life to, or we were able to people this idea of regionality of our islands, right? So so yeah, it allows for. I think we struggle. I think we struggle. I think the kids of today struggle with how this part of the world is carved up, right? If you take a look at a political map, political jurisdiction map, you see Federated States of Micronesia, in a box, and then you see Guam separated from CNMI, right? I mean, um, and that's problematic because we, our friends, our classmates, our brothers and sisters, with whom we share so much, just in terms of connectedness, right? That we know enough to care about each other, right? Imagine that. Um, Yet, in all of our contemporary knowing, right, of Western academia and Western knowledge, we somehow got disconnected or distanced in a way, right? So struggling against, how is it that this is the kind of reality and we're so, focused, very America centric, yet the reality of how we live our lives in the island, the groundedness, the connectedness, not just with the land, not just with the sky, not just with the ocean, but people who don't look like us or who come from different islands, right? How could that be if on the map, you know, we're this and we're separated from them, and then these guys are in another box? So very intuitive of you. It is. It's about, and traditional navigation and so a man by the name of Sol Gafru, who really I think in the story of his life, right? One of the important things that he did was that he took a breadfruit picker and he went to all the different islands in Micronesia and he got something that was really special from each of them. And he put them into this canoe and then sunk the canoe to the bottom of the Marianas Trench
Mm.
to preserve
Mm.
all this information, right? Because he knew that big change was about to occur, right? So the story in and of itself is interesting in that it's the only story that really kind of teaches us of that at one point in time, our idea of the world was a Micronesian worldview, right? Which I think we miss a lot of in our, American education, contemporary education now, because we learn more about the, United States that are, much further away, and some kids don't even know where Yap and Chook or where these other islands, and we're so close. We're so close. So, there are tensions and anxieties that are created, with that. And so I think at some point, at some level, I think all the people who live the kind of, life live here on Guam or in Micronesia, there's a point when that, that there's, there's an awareness of that acute kind of conflict and how to resolve that, how to reconcile that. That's, that's something that we all have to do as individuals.
One of the things that kind of came to mind as you were talking was you were talking a lot about just region and the connectiveness of region and kind of these boundaries that we have, or these borders, or these things that define what the region is. And um, I feel like in a way you're talking more like politically and like um, scientifically and just like geographically, all that stuff. But when you were talking, one of the things that came to my mind was kind of the political uh, borders we draw, or not political, the mental borders we draw within ourselves and within our own identity, right? Because I think um, within the past couple of decades, you hear the word Micronesian as a label, and it kind of is negative, and that's still something that unfortunately is still so, you know.
Right.
I want to say that it's less so, but I'm in a specific circle, and I can't speak for an entire generation of people.
Yeah.
But I think the interesting thing with seafaring is that it really shows kind of this strength of being Micronesian and this skill and this um, just wisdom in Micronesia that we don't always acknowledge, like kind of the power of being in this region and the power of calling yourself um, not just the specific island you're from, but also calling yourself like a part of Micronesia.
Well, yeah, when I identify myself, like I do lectures,
Mhm.
off island, I am, very explicit and open about saying I am a proud Chamorro, that I am a proud Micronesian,
Mhm.
that I espouse to the greatest expression of American democratic values, right? And so I live fluidly those identities, right? And and so I think that because there's such a pressure to identify and to label, that we feel the pressure to have to choose, but you don't have to choose. I mean, they're all our legacies. And so rather than feeling less than because we either don't speak Chamorro, or less than because we're mixed heritage, or whatever the case is, right? That no, my thought is that those are we inherited all of those things. So we have every right to use what's best, you know, in order to be able to survive, and not just to survive, but to thrive, right? Um, and while I think, we can't ignore, of course, the violence and the trauma of the colonial experience, we also at the same time have to say, my goodness, you know, we learned how to survive, we're resilient, and so, it's it's kind of in the way, in my mind at least, that I've reconciled those things, and some things, like trauma and violence, that you just can't ever really truly, reconcile. But I don't have a problem saying I'm Chamorro, that I'm Micronesian, that I'm American, that I am proud Chamorro, and all the traditional knowledge that I know about seafaring is Woolley-ai, and it comes from a very specific school of Micronesia, of ancient, traditional navigation, the school of Wareng, as you know, you're Wareng, but also from the estate of Haboilal, which is the bloodline and the lineage that was able to maintain uninterrupted the knowledge um, of traditional seafaring for thousands of years. Imagine that, still uninterrupted, still a very active canoe culture. And they've been sharing with us to help us kind of regain and revitalize that kind of tradition. And so yeah, to your point of, we're absolutely, it breaks my heart to think that we can't feel proud to say that we're both Chamorro and Micronesian, because um, because I think the fullest expression of, I guess, if you want to call it identity for me, has to include not just Chamorros from Guam, not just Chamorros from the CNMI, not just, it has to include all of the people of this region, because we had such a long history together, you know.
That was beautiful. I'm just sitting here like kind of absorbing, and I'm like, dang, there's like so many. I feel like there's like a million questions you could ask, and that's not a podcast episode. That's a podcast. You could
No,
start
I'm
off a
enjoying
whole
this
topic
with
on
you,
that.
actually. I'm really enjoying, listening to you, because a lot of times, with students, I don't, we don't really get an opportunity like this, just to like hear, because, we're very focused on content delivery. We have a responsibility to students, right? But, and you're not a student anymore, of course, but to hear how the class and the experience, to hear, and I know what we do teach and things, and I know that it's more than just like, the actual lashing and building of canoe houses and canoes, but to hear you reflect on those things, which are always, this, they're embedded in all the stories, in all the activities that we do. And see, what I'm fascinated by is that you're able to crystallize those things. No, it's really it really makes me feel happy about that. So, and then we're talking about it, and I'm just fascinated.
Hey, anything else you ever wondered while I'm sitting here? 20 questions, hot seat.
No,
I'm always the one asking. I'm always the one asking questions, but I'm always open to be grilled myself. Only fair.
Yeah, no, I just well, you tell me then, like, what keeps you coming back? I know that you talked about the calmness, but what is do you have like dreams, or do you aspire just to, in terms of like sailing, or do you think about sailing someplace, like when we go, we're eventually gonna go, do you have a place that you're thinking about, you want to sail, or
um I don't know if there's like a specific thing that kind of brings me here, like, every week, but I think it's always different by the day. There's always a different answer or a different reason for this month or the next month or the next week.
yeah,
And it's because I always feel like no matter how many times I'm here, or even if no matter how many times if we're doing the same thing over and over again, there's something new about it. There's always something different about it, even if it is the same exact
I'm
thing.
going to interfere because it seems like it's so freelance.
Oh, what?
I'm going to interfere.
Oh.
So I'm going to ask the question. I'm going to go next year, Mike.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to ask this question.
okay.
Oh,
What is that in
I'm
the
scared.
future that you desire to do that lets you hit the surface of the ocean to get somewhere?
And before you answer, Hafa,
Alex. Go see Annalie Villagomez sa Pamilya Lafayette in Saipan. I'm Annalie Villagomez from Saipan. And I want to ask the question. Sorry, I had to interfere because, I just admire this whole thing. I want to ask, what is that you want to do in the future that allows you to slap your arrival on the surface of the ocean because you want to be there?
What do I want to do in the future? Oh, I mean, aside from the voyaging, right? And aside from going to the most sacred spaces, I think really, really what be like for me would be to go up to Mount, and to the east of Mount is where Ilawul, the mother of traditional navigation, the one who I think really inspired me, along with Laksaktula, the feminine spirit of the ocean, which, by the way, is not even Austronesian. It's actually a Sanskrit, and if you break down her name, Laksaktula, it comes out to be that force which tempers fire and creates life. So, verified by Tindano Mendiola, the Makana of Saipan, who taught me. But man, to go, so Ilawul, story of Ilawul, and so I'm going to explain. So Ilawul is the mother of traditional navigation. And so when there was conflict between her sons, Waring and Fanur, the story goes is that she went to swim, she swam north, and she crossed, the circle of fire. And after she crossed the circle of fire, because she went north actually to the trench to consult ancestors, to get validation that what she was doing was correct, and and to guide her. And so apparently, ancestors said you must go through the ring of fire, and then cool your belly. So we know she cooled her belly in Tinian and in Saipan, and it makes sense in terms of how the story goes, is because Ring of Fire, remember that all of the islands, along the Marianas, right? They're all on volcanic ridge, built from a volcanic ridge. So there was fire, which is why they called it the island, the Orange Islands, or the Islands of Fire. So Ilawul went there, cooled her belly. It's a beautiful metaphor, because she cooled her belly. Why would somebody cool your belly? Why would a woman cool their belly if they were hot? Why would they cool their belly? Cool their belly because there were future navigators inside of her. So she whispered to her children, and this is a part of the story, that she whispered, while she cooled her belly, she whispered to them. And then she went up, and her resting place is close to Mount. So to go there, that would, I think that would be pretty amazing. And I think that would take me to a different level of knowing the ocean.
Can I share one thing before I
Yeah.
over there?
Go back to
Okay, the one thing I would like to share is there was an individual that told me, she's a captain. She got on a boat and went up north because she was a captain, right? So she got hired to go up there. She went up there and she said, when I passed Agrigan Island and kept going further, when she was heading towards Malta, she started to feel the energy changing, where things were flashing so fast, and the sun was too close.
Right.
And the other captain came and said, it's normal. This is what happens. But I don't know, even I want to try it out. So, yeah, hopefully you get to try that.
Oh, yeah, no, I have to pay homage to her. We have to do it,
We're going to do it.
Hey, girls trip. Okay. Okay, everyone, round of applause for our special guest.
Yay, Anna! Hey, go to Pues Hafa. She says she makes the most amazing jewelry. Is this a plug for you,
There
Anna?
you go.
PuesHafa.com. Oh, she corrected me.
Oh,
PuesHafa.com. It's got the most amazing things. They sell out so fast. So if you really want something from her, you should probably custom order. I'm gonna do that. Yeah.
There you go.
It's amazing.
Her plug right there at the bottom, right under us. Okay. Anyway, dang, what were we talking about? I don't even remember what I was talking about. What was the last thing we were talking about?
Well, we were talking about Anna was talking about, like, what's the last, she had a question.
Yeah.
And then before that we were talking about community connectedness, Micronesian world, Micronesian view of the world, a regional identity. And see, that's the thing. Identity, I think, is another, like, very problematic thing, because when people talk about identity, right? There's
Mhm.
always it feels very static,
Mhm.
and it's not very fluid. And the truth of the matter is that we evolve as people, right?
Mhm.
And so we grow and we learn and we change. Um, so when people like really just hone in on like a specific kind of identity, you know, it's very problematic because it's not very fluid.
Mm.
Uh, and uh, and we're fluid. We evolve just like,
Mhm.
you know, anybody else
Yeah.
or anything else, any living thing.
Oh man, you know this is gonna seem so unrelated because I don't
I
remember.
like these.
It is related and unrelated. Like it seems unrelated, but I swear I thought of it like maybe like 5 quotes ago.
Okay.
And it was
Okay.
so just before we started filming this, me and Melissa just found out that we're going to the same
Oh,
conference
yeah.
next week. Like we had no idea. I was just like, "Oh, I'm gonna be in Indiana next week." She's like, "Indiana? What days?" So yeah, we're gonna go to the conference, and one of the reason that's bringing me out to the that I'm going to that conference is because I just wrote this piece for um this toolkit on path like guiding pathways, higher education, stuff like that. My specific team was kind of like an indigenous land-based focus education,
Sure.
and just like kind of indigenous like indigenous knowledge and all of that. Um, I'll send it to you. I think you'll like it. Well, I'm not trying. Look, I'm not. If anyone knows me, you know I'm not like that. I don't share anything. I don't. I can't even read my own work because I don't want to see that. You know. But I just think. I think out of like more of a respect thing, I'll send it to you and Larry because I. It's a funny story actually. So most of them on the team they're all on the west coast of the U.S.
Okay.
One's in like in Alaska right now. So when they have meetings, I'm not going to that.
Okay.
I'm not about to go to a meeting at 3 a.m. You know,
3 a.m.
because our 3 a.m. is not
Oh yeah,
time
yeah, yeah.
difference.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
So I was just like, yeah, I'm not going to that meeting. You guys fill me in, right?
Right.
So I was looking at the meeting minutes, right? And I was like, oh, this is what I'm writing. Okay, I was like, cool, cool, cool. Then they're like their concept was um the term specifically was canoe connections. And I was like,
Oh,
oh, this is perfect because like I don't even think they know who I am. None of these
yeah.
people, and it just happened to like to be that way.
Cool.
So like they just
Okay.
had this idea that everyone like a lot of the islands um just have that kind of almost everyone has like a seafaring culture or tradition or something like that. And like talking about the canoe, that's the best way to like connect ideas, connect cultures and all that. But the thing with me was they were thinking metaphorically, and in my head I was like, oh, canoe, got this. Yeah, 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 let me talk about the canoe.
Yeah. Oh,
I was like,
that's
yeah,
great.
let me do this. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So when I turned in my piece, right, and I was like, we had like this giant Google Doc with like everyone's piece together. So it's like you're supposed to read everyone's and kind of see where your own put where you could fit yours in, like which between whose stories or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was reading it, I was like, oh, this is a metaphor. I was like, oh, am I the only one that like talks about the actual ocean and
Props
like
to
the
you.
actual like canoe and stuff like that?
And were you?
Yeah,
Wow.
but I think part of that part of that part of it what that I was writing in it was, of course, the toolkit is about kind of like pathway or like kind of guiding principles of higher education. So I was talking about kind of the idea of island wisdom and just the balancing of island wisdom and Western
Right.
methodologies or pedagogy.
Yeah.
Um, but I think the thing I liked most about that piece wasn't like the more like you know fancy word stuff in it. I think what I liked was talking more about this specific place from a reflective standpoint, like how there's like a part where I was like on paper, like looking at my transcripts, it says that my professor is Larry Ricketall, right? But then I was kind of really talking about how like the thing with that is that he's on paper, but every day I come to the canoe house, I have someone new teaching me something. and it's
Wow.
because someone always has something important to tell you. Because yes, Palo Larry is like the navigator for the canoe house, and then there's Bascas and Casper.
Right.
But I had these beautiful days where I'm sitting down with Gina, Regina, like the women, and they're teaching me about um, preserving food, or they're teaching me about how to weave. We didn't have a plate, so they're like, "Yes, you have a plate. Go cut down a coconut leaf,
Yeah.
and then I'm gonna show you how to make a plate." And I was like, "Oh, okay, shoot, all right," like that.
Yeah.
And I think kind of to kind of connect it a bit to what we were talking about earlier, um, it was just because what to connect it to two things about when you're asking like about me being in the canoe house, and kind of connect it to the idea of Micronesian knowledge and skill.
Right.
I just think that's it's such a beautiful way, not just to we keep talking about connection, but a beautiful way to create community and to learn. That's, I think, not just for the efficacy of it, but really just it makes, I think a lot of the tiny things that are done are still so big and meaningful in small ways.
Right.
You
You know,
know?
it's fascinating you say that is because as I was talking about Solgafru
Mhm.
and how he pulled everything down to the trench,
Mhm.
one is that he gave us a Micronesian worldview, right?
Mhm.
Uh, but the other gift that he gave was the idea that all the islands, every single island, had something unique and special to give. So it's in a way the value of inagofli'i, or the value of fatautau, which is like to really see a person, and however different they are, to allow, to embrace their their very special and unique humanity,
Mhm.
right? And so even if someone like looks so different, you know, the idea of fatauto is you appreciate that even though maybe you don't understand them, or they look strange, or they're doing funny
Yeah.
things, but and you have a certainty that they have something special to contribute, you know. And so I think in the kind of Americanization and the value of individual rights, you know, it not only individual rights, but kind of standard prescribed behavior of things, you know, and or conceptualization of mental illness. A lot of these things don't allow for, and in fact encourage us. I think, at least me, I know in my own kind of growing, um, to create these kind of divisions and to not be so accepting or tolerant, or just not even have the patience to get to know a person, um, before judging whether or not, you know, they're worthy of this or they're worthy of that, or they're, you know, they're capable of this or they're capable of that. Um, you know, we do a lot of judging because our world, and even in the way we think about people, we categorize people into races. Well, how meaningful is that? You know, and then we need to have labels for everybody. If you're this LGBTQ, you're straight, you're, you know, whatever the case is, you're, you know, again, you're different races or whatever. You come from the third world or the first world. It's all like dividing, 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 and then we're involved in a culture of contest, you know, where there's winners and losers, right? And instead of a culture of collaboration and community. So yeah, going back to bringing that, you know, round to your point of, you know, knowing that when you were at the canoe house, there was always something special and new to learn. Someone had something to offer, and was willing to share, you know, with you, right? Share that kind of space. It is a beautiful space. It's a sacred space, right?
Another kind of interesting thing about the canoe house with like we're talking about the like learning something new every day. I think you don't you can't, what is it? Um, you learn something new when someone's kind of um, willing to teach you it, right? And I think that every time you're here, everyone's always willing because it's just um, I don't know. I guess that's how it is, and that's who they are. Always willing to kind of like teach you. I think when I was first coming here, I was like when I first was when I was taking classes and I took the first class um, here. I was actually kind of like intimidated because I was like, yeah, I was just like, because in my head, right? I'm like, I know nothing. I was like, I know nothing about what I'm stepping into. I feel like I'm like gonna be a toddler in like these people's eyes. And like maybe I kind of was, but then it was just kind of like there was a big there's a big openness to all of it and acceptingness, and it's just like come in if when you're ready, or come in when you want to. We will be here. And I thought that was really cool, but in one sense for me, right, I'm kind of coming into like something that's slightly more established, um, because it was already it's a UOG class, and it's been running hasn't been running for too long, but I'm not the first person to take this class, but I'm kind of wondering about you and your start in it, and kind of how'd you feel about not just the idea of learning, but just in the sense of joining this community that you kind of we've both been talking about something being pretty special.
Yeah, I think, well, since the 90s when Sacred Vessels came out, and so my cousin Tina is now married to Dr. Diaz. They're both professors at the University of Minnesota. So I was exposed to it, during the 90s. Then I went off to school, and I started carving just because I wanted to carve. And when I came home, I wanted to know more about traditional navigation, and I met Larry, and I took the class. But like took a hold of me, and so the carving then became I needed to carve a canoe, right? And so that's really how it all started, and and then from there, I think it took its own course, And so that's how in many ways, I felt the same way. I wanted to be at the canoe house, and I was fascinated by learning the different stories, but I was also fascinated by the carving itself. Um, and then, before I know it, um, I was asked if I wanted, if I would be ordained Pope, which I didn't expect at all. And in fact, because this is traditionally, um, the canoe house is a men's space, and voyaging um, is, is for the most part something that the men did, right? So, which is in line with our own story of emergence, that the man is of the ocean and women is of the, women are of the land. So, so I didn't expect it at all, and in fact, I just was happy to carve canoes. Um, and then I just started learning more. I got interested in the chants and things, and then I was asked, and so initially I was like, "Are you sure? You sure you got the right person, right?" And no, they said that they were sure, and even then, like 2 months prior, I I wasn't sure if I wanted to, because I knew that with that came a lot of responsibility, not just a responsibility to my family anymore, not just a responsibility to the community of Guam, not just a responsibility to the Marianas, not just a responsibility in my own kind of professional, career to academia, um, but the responsibility became great. And I tell you, so I'm married, right?
Yeah.
But I never had a sensation of, you know how they have those runaway bride type things,
Yeah.
that movie. I never had cold feet. That's not a problem. I got married. Hey, no problem.
Yeah.
But when it came to the pole,
Mhm.
oh, I had nerves. I had nerves, and in fact, and I'll share this with you, is that even up to the last day, I told I told Larry, I said, "You got the wrong person, man. You got the wrong person." And he came and he sat with me, um, and then I just trusted him that you know that I guess this was something that was right, and I knew, you know, I was everything like I was everything a traditional navigator, Micronesian traditional navigator is not supposed to be. You know, I'm a woman, I'm Chamorro, um, but um, but somehow they felt it was right, and you know this the pole is it's a gift, right? And it's a gift of knowledge and a marking that that can only, you know, that comes from a particular shop or root or source, and that's in Pulawat. Um, so I know you asked the question of how did you get there, and really it's I never thought I was going anywhere. You know, so answer that kind of more literally.
It just came about.
Yeah, I didn't think I was going there at all, and I don't think, to be honest, I don't think it's something that a person can earn. Like, I don't think there's like, if you take all these courses or you do this and then you know you come out with this. It's not something that you can earn. It's a gift that you're given, because and it's their gift to give. You know, so so yeah. So then I decided that you know, I was going to take on that kind of responsibility, because I just loved it so much. And I just love being on the ocean. When I'm on the ocean, it's you know, time is different, whole perspective of life is different. Um, and when there's nothing but blue around you, you know, blue ocean, just like a circle of blue, and then you look up and there's just like a, you know, lighter blue. It's, you know, it's and I know this sounds a little strange, but it's almost like I'm in a timeless space where I am nowhere, but I'm everywhere all at the same time. Anywhere the ocean touches, you know. And any land that I see, like any island that, you know, might pop up,
Yeah.
I still could be, that could be any island. I could be nowhere and anywhere at the same time. And time is, whew, time is something else. Time is, you know, it's not in minutes, not in seconds. You know, it's when the sun rises and the sun sets, and depending on the different moon cycles. I mean, that's how time, you know, is. And so you can't divide it, and you can't start saying, okay, during this time for these hours, I'm gonna do this is, and this is what life is like, right? You're like, okay, you're gonna wake up at this time. You're gonna spend an hour, you know, getting ready for work. You're gonna spend, you know, 30 or 15 minutes on the road. I mean, everything is measured like that.
Like breakdowns, like very
Yes.
specific.
It's so much more fluid, you know, being out, you know, in the open ocean. Really magical, actually.
It really is. When was the first time you went out ever?
Wow, you know, like went out on a canoe.
Mhm.
I would say 2000 and maybe 2009, 2010.
2009.
Yeah, I was in Yap because I spent a lot of time in Yap since I was about 16, you know, 15, 16, spent a lot of time in Yap traveling because I have a family there. And my sister Mighty, who lives in Seattle now. But yeah, that was really the first time. So I didn't go, I mean, it wasn't early in my life, it was later in my life. You know, that sailing and and being on the canoe and carving, all of that came much later in my life after I'd finished school.
I love this conversation so much. And I feel like honestly we could be here all night, guys. We have we have been here we have been here all night actually. But we're gonna have to cut this interview, but also not, because the next episode that I do, if you know, no, when it happens, because we're manifesting, is gonna be me, Melissa, and Larry this time. So it's still gonna be in the same like seafaring space, but now it's gonna be Larry. So then, you know, me and Melissa have you know, things that we want to talk about, but when it's gonna be with Larry, that's kind of like a whole new subject. Or we could like bring up the same thing. Who knows what we feel like? Who's gonna know what we feel like in a couple weeks? It's gonna be what it is, and I hope you like it. Uh, but either way, Melissa, I'm just so grateful that you came today. That with your um, openness about talking about all of this, I think another big reason why I wanted to interview you too. Originally, the episode was going to be me, Melissa, Larry, but Larry, he's not on island at the moment, and I was like, hey, can I just like interview you? Because the thing about Melissa is she's just such a great speaker, and I think you guys already know it from like this hour that you guys been watching. Like she's just so eloquent and also concise with her speaking too, and just you also really feel. I think, at least for me, I think sometimes like when you talk about specific subjects, I can really feel like not just like logically understand, but I can also kind of connect, even if it's something that I don't even feel myself. I can kind of feel what you're trying to express because I think you're just really good at conveying um, all of this out in such a easy, deep and meaningful way. So I was like, hey, you know, even if Larry's not here, Larry, next time, all right, catch us next time, Larry. We gotta do a podcast for the girls, you know.
Can I interfere real quick?
Yeah.
Come on, huh?
Yeah.
You can always edit this, but the reason why I asked that question to her is because the answer was seaplane.
Yes.
There you go.
Seaplane. Oh, that's what you were getting at. Yeah, no, I want to working on my pilot certificate, and I really want to. Yeah, no, because I'd like to be able to. I'd have to go off and get more training to do the seaplane. But man, the big dream is to like take off on the seaplane anytime and go up north. Yeah.
That'd be badass.
Yeah, it's doable.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's doable. Hey, you know what? Okay, so you want to know? Okay.
What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up?
Part of the seaplane is like really deep, right? The whole seafaring and all of that.
Yeah.
But there's also a little part of me, and you're not, because I'm going to show my age now.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that if you ever watched the TV show Fantasy Island?
No, sorry.
See?
That's not me.
Never mind, dude. You know what? Look it up.
Yeah.
And watch a little clip. And there's this little guy named Tattoo. And so he's dressed in these white suits, right? There's one particular white suit. And then he hears the plane coming, and it's a seaplane. And he goes up to this, like, I don't know, a tower or something. This is the beginning. This is the opening of the show. And he looks and he goes, the plane, the plane. Do you remember that, Anna? Fantasy Island. Oh my God, I'm so old.
Navigator and future pilot, guys. What can she do?
Oh, I gotta do that.
But anyway,
you can totally edit that out if you want, because
no, we're keeping it. We're keeping it, guys. But
the plane.
Okay. Anyway, again, thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, Melissa, for being here. And thank you guys so much for watching. I'll be here hopefully every month, sporadically, in a sense.
She's badass. Watch all of her podcasts. Yeah.
But don't forget to like our Facebook, like our Instagram, follow us on Instagram, listen on Spotify, or watch the actual video portion of this on Facebook or YouTube, our YouTube channel too. And yeah, man, I really wish I didn't have to end this, but I gotta go. Oh, you know what? We also have a Patreon, and okay, sorry I didn't tell you this, but it's actually my birthday today.
Oh my God!
So I gotta go to I gotta go to a birthday dinner right now, so that's why I have to cut it short. But you know what? For my birthday, can you guys like subscribe to our Patreon? You know,
Come
like
on.
just like subscribe, just like
Hey, I'm
just
already.
like check
I'm
it
a
out.
subscriber.
Hey, see, be like
I'm a
Melissa,
subscriber.
just
See,
check us
Anna, you
out
gotta
real
be a
quick.
subscriber.
Check us out real quick. Hey, subscribe to our Patreon, Fanachu
Oh,
Podcast.
Fanachu podcast, guys.
Uh,
Fanachu
anyway,
podcast.
thank you again, and thanks guys for watching. See you next time.